That's your role for your organization. You are being paid to recognize patterns, good and bad, and either amplify that pattern because you recognize it's a good one, or run away from that pattern because you've been burned.
It's called freaking leadership. What does that mean? It's to lead. It's a verb. It's you're out front. You're taking risks. You're making decisions. You don't freeze. Or if you freeze for microseconds.
You have two choices at that point. You can beat yourself up, like Bob said. That doesn't do you any good. Or you can say, all right, cool, we've learned. We're going to pivot. We're going to make a change. And here's why. And go. And you know what?
Yep.
5 years from now, you might learn some more. And you might realize, maybe there's an even better decision.
And it's not their decision. So you have to own it. Part of my book story is it's not, I can't talk to the publisher and say, and they, if I get railed in a review, it was one of the reviewers.
Yeah.
I followed one of the reviewers. It's not my fault, right? No, I'm the author of the freaking book, right? Everything, I own it. So bring that to leadership. You are the leader.
They're just incrementally better choices. It
Yep.
doesn't mean they were bad choices. They're just incrementally better as you've gotten better, as you've learned, as you've acquired more knowledge, as your team has done all of those things. Now you're even better. So embrace that, use that to continually refine the choices that you make along the way.
Entry music. Da, 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 da. It's the Bob and Josh Show.
There will be times when you as a leader have to make a call and you won't have all the information and you feel like you shouldn't, you can't. It's irresponsible of you to make a decision, but you have to. Your team, the universe, your product, your customers, something needs you to make a decision. And every fiber in your being is telling you, I need more info, but the space-time continuum is against you and you have to make a decision. So that's what today's episode is all about, is those times when you feel that crunch, you feel that pressure that I've got to make a decision, but I know I don't have all the information. What do I do? How do I manage that? It happens more than you think. I think more often people just avoid the decision. So we're here to help you make the decision and give you the comfort and confidence to make the decision and how to roll with it. So I think that is item number one that I want to hit from the very start, right out of the gate. Bob, this is something that you mentioned in our pre-work. Yeah, that's right. About you're going to make a decision, but what happens when you realize, ooh, I need to change course? Is that the end of the world? What happens? How do you manage that? Robert?
I mean, one quick setup comment I have is I think you said something like there might be times when you don't have all the information. Metacasters, I'm going to disagree violently with my partner, Josh. Every time. I think it's foolish to think that, or presumptuous to think that you have all information. So it's just the degree of information you have. So get used to, as a leader, buck up, buttercup. Every decision you make is going to have ambiguity associated with it. It gets worse, as Josh was alluding to, and then it may have been it was a good decision, and then it may change, and now it's a bad decision. Do you have to pivot from? And then how do you do that? Get used to that. That, to me, that's normal. Now, God help, for example, I haven't picked on a project managers, Josh, and I don't know.
It's been a while.
It has been, but I'm going to rant. Project managers listening to this episode.
Put those seatbelts on, get in a car with lots
you
of
have
airbags.
this false belief that you can plan the future. You can't plan diddly squat. It's not. And you put it in Gantt charts and think, oh, I'm predicting this. It's never been. It's not just technology work. Planning a house, building a house, planning a wedding, planning anything. It's not. But a lot of project managers are like, oh, we have the plan, and we spend all this focus on the plan. So it's all I'm saying is I'm not disagreeing with Josh. It's normal. To me, it's how you navigate it. Do you beat yourself up even? Do you look, for example, for too much information? You know that you can't get it all, but are you getting too much? So are you making a decision with insufficient information, and then there's, the just enough, just in time nature of it, or do you push not it for 100%, but do you push for more than you needed, etc.? So how do you push that envelope?
Yeah, the best piece of advice I ever got in this realm is Ken Hudson. He was the CEO at Dude Solutions, and he and I were talking about some of the historical decisions that they had made because I was then put in charge of technology and application development, and there were a lot of choices that were made. They've been around for 15 years, a lot of old product, and I was younger in my journey. I was still learning some things. He said, "Josh, I want you to know one thing. Every decision was the right one when we made it. We did the best we could with the information that we had. I recognize fully, Josh, in this moment that some of those decisions with the information we have now weren't the best. But when we made them, we did our best." And so that's the comfort that I try and give to myself, is that I know I'm trying to do a good thing, and I am going to look back, and there are going to be choices that at that moment in time in the universe, based on the information I had, I fully believe this was the right thing for us to do. Time has moved on. I have learned. The world has grown. I have grown. And I realize, ooh, I've learned a lot more since then. So if I had this information that I have now, if I had it back then, I probably would have made a different choice. But I know in that moment that was the best choice I could have made. So whenever you're working somewhere, I always hang my hat on that, is that every decision that was made, they did the best they could. You did the best you could when you were trying to make that choice. You did. The world's changed. You've learned. Cool. That's a good thing. It's not a bad thing. It's good that you can now recognize, oh, that thing that we thought was X is actually Y. So now what are we going to do about it? You have two choices at that point. You can beat yourself up, like Bob said. That doesn't do you any good. Or you can say, all right, cool, we've learned. We're going to pivot. We're going to make a change. And here's why. And go. And you know what? 5 years from now, you might learn some more. And you might realize, maybe there's an even better decision. So that's the last thing I want to leave before I hand it off to Bob, is that they're just incrementally better choices. It doesn't mean they were bad choices. They're just incrementally better as you've gotten better, as you've learned, as you've acquired more knowledge, as your team has done all of those things. Now you're even better. So embrace that, use that to continually refine the choices that you make along the way.
Absolutely. There's a guy called Norm Kerth Kerth, and he wrote a book, an old book on. So before there were agile retrospectives, he or he talked about. He wrote a book on retrospection or reflection, and he created something called his prime directive. And the prime directive for any retrospective or lessons learned is sort of assuming or having the baseline that we did the best we could. So instead of blaming folks, because it's all negative energy, it doesn't do anything. So instead of looking for someone to blame or kicking yourself in the butt because you made it, it's look back and say, given the context of the situation, we did the best we could. So I just want to amplify that and anchor what Josh said. That's sort of a premise that you want to get. Learn from it, but don't, but just ignore the negative energy. One thing I wanted to bring up, Josh, is as you were, it's not related to what you were talking, but I had this. I thought about alone versus team. So as a leader making a decision, I, I, for me, I think I've always been a team guy, and that doesn't mean I send a poll out to the team like a
Mhm.
survey, and then I have an algorithm that aggregates it into a decision. But I want to hear voices. I want to hear opinions. I want to hear dissenting opinions. So there's narrow. I'm making a decision based on what I know, versus there's broader. I want to get some other opinions and then make a decision as a leader, and I don't want to get stuck in trying to please people, etc. I think there's one basic mistake, good pattern, bad pattern, where Metacasters, when you're doing these things, get some opinions, get some voices, talk to some trusted partners, but talk to some really weirdos too. Uh, because you want diversity of ideas before, or at least I do. I think you make better decisions in the moment. So when you're gathering your data, you're never going to have enough data, but you can gather it narrowly or you can gather it more broadly. I would recommend gathering it more broadly and then thinking diversity, even if you want to hear what you don't even like hearing.
Yeah.
Like, go ahead,
Yes.
Josh.
That's a powerful lesson that I learned the hard way. I'm assuming Bob learned it the hard way as well. Early in my career, I hired effectively mental clones of Josh. So we all viewed the world similar the same way, and which meant we had a limit on ourselves. We could only get so good. I then was forced is a strong word, but I moved into a role where the team was much more diverse. And I was like, oh man, this is going to be really hard to manage because not everybody thinks the way I think. Turned out that was the wrong way to think for me.
Yeah,
I soon learned as I was effectively forced into doing what Bob just talked about, those opinions and views from all these different angles and different experiences and different backgrounds just were like little sparks of ideas and ingenuity that never crossed my brain. And now, oh, if I pull this from that person and this from that person and connect them
exactly.
together, we've got something really cool. Now, one of the things that I want to caution, especially new leaders in an agile space, is that there's so much emphasis and focus on being a servant leader. And oftentimes people mistake that for being, I can't make a decision for the team. I am just here to like amplify the choice that they want. That's not what we're saying. We're saying that you take the input, you process it, and you say, okay, based on the information that I've gathered, here's the direction that I believe that we should go. When you do that, you must know people will disagree with you. People will say, hey, but I talked to you about that, and I told you I thought it should be red. Why is it blue? That doesn't make any sense to me. So the backup that I provide for myself is that whenever I make a decision, I make sure that I can clearly articulate why I made that choice. Because again, I found that people are mostly logical. And when you make a decision, you know somebody's not going to be happy about it. But if I can say, I understand this isn't the direction you wanted it to go, but here's why I chose to go this direction because of X, Y, and Z. I'm not asking you to love it, but I'm trying to present a fair enough case where you can say, oh, okay, I understand how you got there. I don't like it, but I understand. So I'm always most comfortable, most confident when I can craft that formula in my brain of how I came to this answer so I can present it to everybody that's not going to like it because oftentimes a significant portion of the team I know is not going to like it, but I know it's the right thing for us to do. So I have to make that call, but I have to say, we're doing this because of this, this, and this, and here's the expectation. And again, people will table flip, people will get upset or frustrated, but they can piece things together and say, okay, well, I don't like it, but okay, I think I can get on board.
I mean, I'm going to disagree, not or say yes and
Ooh,
Josh. I, so yes, what you were saying is defend your decision to me. What I was thinking is you're defending your decision to your team. Uh, I when I'm soliciting the ideas from the team, I tell them right up front that this is just an idea. It's like when I wrote a book and I sent the book out for editorial comments. There were paragraphs I wrote that 13 people told me how to write the paragraph, right? And I'm like, and I remember the first time I wrote, I was like, when I sent it out for like technical review, I was back, and the initial part of me was like, crap, I'm going to only I may please one of them and have 12 people that are aggravated with me. And I was frozen. I'm like, oh, I don't want to piss off these people. And what if they're right, etc. And I was like, I was waffling. And imagine like a 300-page book where every comment I'm waffling like that. And so, and then I thought about it. I stepped back. I took a step back and I'm like, I'm the author of the book,
right.
right? They're not the authors of the book. If I say something wrong, it's me. If I
Hmm.
say something right, but I'm the author. Now I want to make the distinction of what I decide to do. I want to separate what we decide from did I appreciate and really consider your words. To me, there's defending, but I tell them I may not agree with you, but I am going to seriously consider what you say, right, every time, before I discount it and ignore you, but I'm seriously to consider it, and I'm not here to make people happy or to appease people. I'm here to write a book, or I'm here to lead a team. Now it should be defensible, but my yes and is I don't think I would worry as a leader to worry about, oh, I have to defend it to everyone. No, I listened to what you said, I considered it, and damn it, I made a decision. And I'm not, I'm not strawberry jamming it on you. I really thought, I listened to what you said. I respect what you said, but I've decided to go on this path, and that's called leadership. And so I think defense
Yeah.
is fine.
Yeah.
But it's also I think it's the hallmark of a leader. Now, what's important is to solicit that feedback and to really, and not BS it. Don't solicit and not look at the serious consider is a really important point, that people know that you're really thinking deeply about what they're offering. React to that, Josh?
Yeah, the common coaching situation that I land in as a well-known agile leader, people come into my organization kind of knowing who I am, how I lead, things like that. So oftentimes when I hire a leader into my organization, I found that they have this tendency to like over rotate into becoming a servant leader because I am very open with everything and I talk about things. I put them on the table, I get the feedback, I ask for that. And what happens is, like I said, they over rotate. And so they
Yep.
stop making decisions. And I say to them, okay, here's what you're doing. I hired you because you have a very specific skill, very specific experience and instincts. And you're just putting that on the shelf. We're not
Yeah.
using that. So that thing that I hired you because you're special at, you have something that most people don't have. We're not using that because you're just putting it all on what the team says. No, we hired you because you're world class at this.
Exactly.
So listen, take that in, but just like Bob is world class at what he's writing about, you get that input and then you can't let it's got to be an input and that's
Yep.
it. And you have to process it, decide what to do with it. Some of it you incorporate, some of it you throw away, some of you're like, okay, I'll save that for later, but
Exactly.
still you have to make that call. So that is really and I see too many leaders that are out there that get frozen or paralyzed or fearful of making the wrong decision. You have to make a decision. Otherwise, you create this entire organization that's frozen. So once you get to the point where you recognize, I've got to make a decision, it's not going to be perfect, but I'm going to make a decision again, and then I'm going to make a better one, and then a better one, and then a better one. You have to adopt that mindset. Otherwise, your team just gets stuck.
Well, and it's not their decision. So you have to own it. Part of my book story is it's not I can't talk to the publisher and say, and they, if I get railed in a review, it was one of the reviewers.
Yeah.
I followed one of the reviewers. It's not my fault. Right? No. I'm the author of the freaking book, right? Everything, I own it. So bring that to leadership. You are the leader, right? You're there to lead, right? And you're there, and it's your decision. It's not their decision. You're getting feedback. You're digesting it. You can ask clarifying questions, but at the end of the day, when it's appropriate, make that decision. Don't be frozen, and then don't target it to other folks. Josh, I wanted to bring up another thing that I was thinking about. Totally, spider sense. I have this
Mm,
term that I use. Spider-Man had a spider sense when danger was lurking. Some people call it your gut or gut feeling, and I think it's part of your decision making. Like, trust your gut. Used to be, I haven't heard anyone say that. Maybe it's like an overweight thing nowadays, but so no one said
I
that for
say it all the
years.
time.
Do you? Yeah,
I
I
mean,
have not.
look at me. I clearly trust this gut, right? So,
But I haven't heard people say that in a long
yeah,
time. But it's like, trust your gut as a leader. I can't. Some of my biggest mistakes as a leader was when I did not trust, like hiring mistakes. My top five. Oh my God, it aged me 10 years at a time. Hiring mistakes, where my gut was telling me, "Don't hire that person. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it," and I didn't listen. Oh, they have this skill. Oh, they went to this university. Oh my God, I've been looking, right? I've been looking for 3 months or 6 months. I need it. And I hired, and it was like, it was a huge mistake. Or a design. We're going to do this on the product. Oh, we got it. And my gut was saying, no, 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 that's the wrong thing to do. Or the CEO's telling me it's my gut said, the CEO's a moron. Don't listen to the CEO. And I just ignored my gut. So what I'm saying is, I don't know what it is, but I think your gut is related to your experience. So this is probably to experience. Josh is an experienced leader. He's an experienced technologist. He's an experienced product guy. His gut has wisdom in it. And now, as a leader, do you trust it or do you not? And I'm saying lean into your gut.
Yeah, one of the first really exciting, encouraging consulting gigs I got, the person that brought me on framed it really well for me and set me off to be successful in future gigs. But they really did a really good job of saying, Josh, we're hiring you for pattern recognition. You have done this n number of times. We've done it less than n. So when you see a pattern that doesn't feel right, I'm paying you to tell me and tell me loudly and clearly. And the way they kicked that off was fantastic because it was one of my first gigs. And so that put me in the proper mindset. So leaders, that's your role for your organization. You are being paid to recognize patterns, good and bad, and either amplify that pattern because you recognize it's a good one, or run away from that pattern because you've been burned. And you know what? We have instincts. We have survival instincts that come to play these same things where over millions of years we've built these up. We've learned how to protect ourselves. And oftentimes we like argue that away. We create logic in our brain of like, oh, well, all of the times Bob's hired somebody, I've done the same thing. And I've said, oh, well, actually, I can explain that away. Don't explain it away. Don't. Like, your gut is telling you not to do something. So trust it. And that you just really, if you start doing that, you start to trust yourself. One of, and this is something that I wrestled with. So I was interviewing for a job at Amazon, and they have these like 12 leadership principles or something like that. And one of them is you are right a lot. And I kind of like ruffled my feather, my feathers at that. And I was like, you know what? That's just, I'm not that cocky. Now, Bob might disagree with me. I'm not that confident in, like that's ridiculous. Like who really is right a lot? Who can say that? Like that's a criteria for how they hire. And so what I started doing was I started paying attention, and I started realizing, wait, I'm right a lot.
You are right a lot.
I'm right. Like, oh, that's a thing. I just wasn't paying attention to it. And so start paying attention to yourself and when you're right and when you're wrong, and start to lean into that and understand, oh shit, I'm I'm pretty good at this. Maybe I should listen to myself.
Another pattern or another sort of mindset thing to me is, Metacasters. I'll harken back to a decision I made and then I pivoted on. So that at one point in my Metacast career, I made a decision to do a sumo
Oh,
contest with my friend Josh, and for a number of episodes, and I was pretty serious about it. I even remember looking on Amazon for sumo outfits, and I was going to buy one of those damn things. And my decision was to have a sumo. I called Josh out to have a sumo contest with him, to get out in the middle of the grass and to bounce. And I was going to bounce his butt. My vision was I was going to sumo his butt on the ground or something. And then that was based on the data I had, and some of that data was flawed. Then one day, Josh, he said something. I was like that little squirrel or the little dog that was yipping around the big dog. And then what did he say? He said, Bob, I've been trained to use leverage to knock people on their ass. I have high skills in that area. And it dawned on me. I'm like, you know, and he's bigger than me to begin with. But not only is he bigger, he's skilled in this area. And I had that new piece of data, and I pivoted very quickly.
It was very quickly.
I'm like, oh, I, I need to change that. No longer am I the yipping dog. It was like, Josh, let's forget about that. I, I had those sumo outfits I had in my cart on Amazon. I deleted them.
Good move.
But my point is, don't get stuck. This is another danger as a leader. You are leading, you're making decisions with limited data. Guess what comes with that proposition? You will get new data that gives you more information, and you need to pivot. And you need to lead through that pivot. You need to have the humility to lead through that pivot. You need to be able to communicate that to your team. Maybe you involve your team in getting data from them or sharing it with them and saying, I'm seeing it this way. Are you seeing it that way before you make that decision? Josh, reactions?
Yeah, that's such a challenging thing for leaders to build that skill in of, okay, I was wrong. How do I handle this? Because in so many instances that there's this portrayal of the leader's never wrong. The leader can't be wrong. If the leader's wrong, we all die. You know, like movies and things like that. And yes, you have a tremendous weight, a tremendous responsibility on your shoulders. But when you build that information pipeline, when you hire smart people and you learn how to lean into and use that to help you make difficult decisions, then you get into a much more comfortable spot of you accept that you don't know everything. You know you can't know everything, but you are smart enough to have surrounded yourself with people that are smart, and like Bob talked about pretty early in this, that have a diverse view of the world that can give you different ways to look at the world. Like I gave Bob in that instance a different way to look at the situation of, Bob, this is unsafe because I've been professionally trained by some of the best trainers in the world to do this. This is a bad plan. And so Bob had that data, a new diverse set of data with a different lens that he didn't have yet, that we provided that to him. And Bob was like, okay, moving on.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Exactly.
but there are so many people, and this is what I want every listener and viewer to walk away from this is, you cannot be paralyzed. You cannot be paralyzed by the fear. You have to lean into your responsibility is to lead. And lead means making decisions. And making decisions means you're going to be wrong. But now the skill you must develop is relying on yourself, your team, your instincts, the patterns that you've recognized over years to adjust and make a better decision. And accepting that the previous decision was just a previous one. It's not
Absolutely.
necessarily bad. It's just this new one is better.
Another variation of this, Josh, is I think we did an episode. Tell me, sunk cost thinking.
Yeah.
Didn't we do? So, Metacasters, go back and look for the sunk cost because it's the same trap. Oh, we've sunk so much, and this is a trap in the pivot decision making matrix. Is you get caught up in, oh, we're too far down the path. No, as a leader, you have to lead through that, and don't get caught up in the sunk cost trap.
Yeah. I feel good. Do you feel forky?
I'm trying to. I think you nailed it. I want to emphasize what you said. Metacasters, it's called freaking leadership. What does that mean? It's to lead. It's a verb. It's you're out front. You're taking risks. You're making decisions. You don't freeze. Or if you freeze for microseconds. If you challenge a colleague to a sumo wrestling match when you're totally outmatched, you don't freeze and get hurt. you pivot. you lead out and you try to hide your your mistake but it's called leadership. And you're never, I'm coming back to the beginning, you'll never have all the information. It's a trap. It's a trap. If you wait for it, you haven't led. And if you make a decision which is too fragile, if it's just your information, or if you haven't done enough work, that's another trap. So there's this just right, just enough, just in time. Trust your spider sense, but freaking lead. Go down the path, and then be humble enough to realize, oh, I made a mistake. We've made a mistake. We need to make an adjustment, and then lead through that, and then know that that's not the final decision. You're going to lead. To me, this is the pattern of leadership: is pivot, 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 lead, 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 to an outcome that that knocks the socks off of your customers and your teams.
Last thing I want to leave everyone with is this is hard.
Yeah.
Bob and I have been working at this for decades each, and we're still not perfect at it. We're better. We're better because we made decisions and we learned. So
Yep.
we tried. The best thing you can do is start, as Bob said, treat it like a verb, lead. So do that, refine, trust yourself, trust that you're going to get better. That's another fear, that the future you is going to be better, smarter, have more knowledge, all of those things. You're going to listen to more podcasts, you're going to make mistakes, you're going to learn, you're going to do all that stuff. Also, Bob and I have said this a lot, get help. Get help. Reach out to somebody like Bob. Reach out to somebody like me. Reach out to other coaches and leaders that are out there that you know can help you get better at this, because this is a challenging thing. There's a reason Bob and I have spent so many episodes talking about things like this, because unfortunately there aren't enough really great leaders. But it can be done. So that is your mission.
Man, that was such a nice. I was going to be a little self-serving and talk about ask us for help, and you nailed it, Josh. And
Yeah.
it not from a total. It's if you can't do it, how did we learn? We we asked for help. So it's really hard stuff. Go get help if you need it, Metacasters. With that, I think we did fork it, Josh. So from beautiful downtown Cary, North Carolina,
And beautiful downtown Fuquay, Varina, North Carolina.
I'm Bob the Hitman Galen.
And I'm Josh, the not hitman. I gotta
And
come up with something better.
The Terminator, Josh the Terminator Anderson.
Okay, great. Sure. Yes.
Shake
And bake.
Take care, y'all.